Hey Galveston Cruise fans, this is Bill with Galveston Cruise Reviews, and unfortunately we got a little bit of bad news today about the options available to cruisers out of Galveston. The original post was out off of RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, which said that several different ships aren't going to get their upgrades. That makes sense. Due to the economic situation, Royal Caribbean can't be sinking a lot of money into the upgrades of ships like the Allure of the Seas, which was scheduled to start sailing out of Galveston next year. They are also not doing the upgrades, the Amplifications, on three other ships, the Adventure, the Explorer, and the Liberty of the Seas, which were sailing out of Galveston. Now, that's not that big of a deal. The ships are in great shape as they are. However, the one particular problem is that the Allure is now not going to sail out of Galveston at all. At the very least, it doesn't have a firm sail date. That's due to the fact that while Royal Caribbean is putting off amplifications to their ship, they're putting off other capital projects as well. That means they're not going to be able to expand the pier at Galveston, and that means that Galveston's not going to be able to accommodate an Oasis-class ship. That means that there's some pretty significant changes to be made, and I got a letter today about one of those changes. Specifically, my cruise, I was scheduled to be on the first cruise on the Allure of the Seas on November the 10th of 2021. I got my letter today saying that had been canceled, and that makes sense. I had been rebooked to another grand suite, so that's fine. The problem is that they rebooked me to a 7-night cruise on the Liberty of the Seas. Now, on the one hand, that's an incredibly generous offer. For the same price or even a reduced price, go on a 7-night cruise instead of a 4-night cruise. The problem is, I can't take a 7-night cruise at that point. And if you read the text of the letter that Royal Caribbean sent, my options do not include just getting a cash refund. They'll let me switch to this other cruise. They'll let me take a 100% future cruise credit, although not an expanded 125% one. But essentially, my options, as explained to me by Royal Caribbean, are to change to a cruise that I can't take. And again, full credit to Royal Caribbean. The cruise is a very good deal, but to change to a cruise I can't take because of how long it is, or alternatively, to transfer my money to another sailing, there's not a refund option listed on this letter, and that really bothers me. I don't blame them for having to make the changes, but if you can't give me the sailing I originally booked, one of my options ought to be able to get my cash back. Now, let's look at what the options are sailing out of Galveston over the next several years. The Jewel of the Seas is still going to come to Galveston, assuming the public health situation improves in December of this year, of 2020, and sail out of Galveston for about 3 months. 4 other ships will spend time in Galveston. It should have been 5, but the Allure is no longer going to do it. The Explorer of the Seas will be there in 2021 for several months, essentially over the summer and the early fall. The Enchantment is there right now, and it will run through this fall. But it looks to me like for the intermediate term, the 2 ships which are principally going to be sailing out of Galveston are the Adventure and the Liberty of the Seas. Let's take a look. So if you click their Find a Cruise tool, and I'm only interested right now in cruises that go out of Galveston, that's what I can drive to. The ships which are available are those 5, the Jewel, the Explorer, the Enchantment, the Adventure, and the Liberty. So, the Adventure will be sailing out of Galveston from November of this year through April of 2022. Now, that's a pretty exciting part of Royal Caribbean's plans, because what that means is you'll have an excellent ship for those 4 and 5 night runs to Mexico, and I think I probably try to book that, right? Like, I would love to have a 5-night trip to Costa Maya and to Cozumel on such a great ship, particularly since they use sometimes a lot of their older ships for that run. The Liberty of the Seas, which is in Galveston now and will stay in Galveston is in Galveston now and has been in Galveston for some time, will also stay in Galveston through at least April of 2022 and won't have the amplifications and upgrades which have been planned for it previously. So, long story short, Royal Caribbean is putting off capital projects. That means several different ships which are in Galveston which were scheduled to receive what Royal calls an amplification, but essentially a series of upgrades, they're not going to get them. The biggest part of that is that we're now not getting an Oasis class ship for at least an extra year due to the fact that Royal can't build that pier at Galveston. If you're booked on one of the impacted sailings, I'd look closely for your letters from Royal Caribbean to see what your options are, and if you're not satisfied, I would absolutely give them a call. So, sorry about the bad news, Galveston Cruise fans, but there's some good news buried in it. For those of us who are fans of the Liberty of the Seas, that means we'll get to continue sailing on a favorite ship, and because they're not doing the revamp, maybe we even get to keep the Connoisseur Club and the cigar bar. I hope everybody's staying healthy and safe, and happy sailing.